Welcome to the Well-Being Manifesto podcast, where we translate science and experience into realistic and sustainable ways of living. In each episode, we offer clear and practical strategies to support all aspects of well-being that matter to you, whether in your home, your community, or place of work. The Well-Being Manifesto is hosted by Dr. Moain Dabrh and Dr. David Freeman, who have spent their careers advancing whole person care. Join us as we focus on real lives and real change, with less hype, more truth, better living.
Welcome one and all to a new day of the Well-Being Manifesto. I am Moain Dabrh.
And everyone, I'm Dave Freeman. And today's guest, my pleasure to introduce Dr. Amit Sood, a physician, scientist, and global thought leader whose work beautifully sits at the intersection of science, soul, and everyday life. From founding the Global Center for Resiliency and Wellbeing to authoring transformative books like the Mayo Clinic Guide to Stress-Free Living, the Handbook for Happiness, and recently It Takes You to Tango, Dr. Sood invites us to a more compassionate, resilient way of living, one that's anchored in attention, intention, and love. In this conversation today, we hope to explore how the small shifts and how we see ourselves and others can ripple across deep and lasting change. Amit, we are thrilled to welcome you to the inaugural conversation of the Well-Being Manifesto.
Thank you so much for having me, gentlemen, and thank you everybody who is watching or listening or both. I'm glad you paused at the word you. It takes you to tango. So the basic idea is that the most important relationship that we have is with ourselves. When I ask people who is your best friend, people will often say sometimes my spouse, my dog, my this, but the correct answer is yourself. And that's what I sort of focus on, because that's where it starts. If you do not have a good relationship with yourself, then the whole world will be lonely. So that's what I've tried to nurture. That's what I've tried to sort of build through work. That's what I've researched over the years. So I'm so glad to be talking to you both.
Thank you. Great to have you, Amit. I want to start. I'm always curious about people's foundation and their experiences, where they have come from and what has led them to this moment where they are today. So can you share with us just a little bit about what shaped your experience to become the person you are today?
So over the next 2 hours, I'll tell you my background. So I grew up in a small town. I had a bad neurological condition in my early teenage years, which made me focus on books. And I sort of became a nerd for some time, which got girls interested in me. So I thought it was nothing like where I grew up. It was a very conservative area. So basically what I learned was I sort of got into academic medicine, got into med school at age 17, and I saw, I was my hometown was Bhopal, India, where there was the worst industrial disaster in 1984, the year I went into med school. So at some point I got the opportunity to move overseas, and I thought US will be Disneyland. I thought everybody here grows up playing in Disneyland. When they are adults, they play slots in Las Vegas, and they retire in Florida playing bingo. I thought that's the average American life. But when I saw a tremendous disconnect between material and emotional well-being, that got me curious to understand the human condition a little bit more. And I sort of explored it from an evolutionary biology and neuroscience perspective, and realized that our brain was actually not designed for peace and happiness. Our brain is designed for survival and safety. And we have to really hack our brain and retrain it. there's multiple types of organs in the human body. So you've never had a podcast on how to get the most out of your gallbladder. I don't think you will have a podcast like that, uh, because gallbladder is not trainable. But brain and heart are trainable. Nature gives us the base model. We have to create our own deluxe model. So once I realized that, I sort of started systematically studying what does it take to create our brain's deluxe model. And so I sort of integrated that neuroscience understanding, and based on that understanding, principles, practices, skills that you can bring in daily life that our brain will not resist or fight. And certainly at some point in my journey, people said, "Oh, you are an internist. Why should we trust you?" So I said, "All right, let's do some clinical trials." And so we've done over 35 clinical trials now, and found that the approach really enhances resilience and well-being and happiness and quality of life and gratitude, and decreases stress, anxiety, burnout, pretty much everything we have tested. And so from there, when we had good research data, we sort of started scaling the approaches in various formats, different verticals. And my effort actually is very selfish throughout. One is I want to build a better world for my planet's children, for my children, for your kids, for everybody's kids. Two is I want to grow in this process. And I have found that one of the best ways to learn something is to teach it. And so I need to really practice the principles in order for me to authentically share with others. So it's an altruistically selfish journey overall.
Yeah, I thought that's a fantastic response, Amit. And digging into that a little bit more, could it gets into what we call the science of attention. In your Mayo Clinic guide to stress-free living, you talk about the brain's sort of tendency to wander, and how that wandering can lead to actual distress, not peace. And you talk about the idea of, quote, attention training, and as a powerful first step in the inner calm and resilience. Could you comment on, how can we practically retrain our mind to be present in daily life?
If you think about your ancestor, 10,000 years ago, who had to travel, half a kilometer to get water from a water hole, they had to go through thorns and bushes and snakes and crabs and potential predator and obviously other tribes, and they didn't even know if the water was safe. There was no opportunity for them to get distracted or think about what Aunt Susan thinks about me. There was no time for that. But the other day, when I flew from Rochester, Minnesota to San Diego, uh, I may have crossed 10,000 people, but I could reach San Diego airport and be in the cab and then look around and see a very different, place. I said, "Oh my gosh, I've traveled all this distance and I don't recollect seeing anybody. I was not worried about my safety. I did not have to protect myself. So what is my brain going to do?" There's three places our brain can be at any time. I can be in the outside world, I can be in my mind, or I can be in my smartphone. I mean, those are the three screens. Those are the three places our attention sort of toggles along. And so I realized that because I don't need to pay attention to the outside world, I'm mostly spending my time either mind wandering or with the screens. Now, mind is not where party is happening, unfortunately. If mind was where party was happening for humans, then we would be fine. But about 60-70% of the time, when we are in our mind, we are thinking neutral or negative thoughts. We are not particularly happy. A wandering mind is an unhappy mind. So I realized that, so for us to train our attention, we really need to externalize it, basically get out of your head and notice the world. Now, the problem is the world is pretty boring at times. I've been married 32 years. After 15 years, my wife started finding me boring and I reciprocated. So basically, world gets very, you don't change homes every 2 weeks. You don't find new work colleagues, etc., etc. So the key then is to find novelty within what seems mundane. And so that's how you train your attention. So your attention can be top down or bottom up. And the basic idea is your attention can be either pulled by the world, but the world is no longer pulling it, or you can push into the world to find details in what seemed ordinary. It could be your partner's eyes that you may not have noticed for the last 18 years. As one of my colleagues said, that was the last time he saw his partner's eyes, like pause to look at the partner's eyes. It could be the design of the watermelon. It could be the design of your hands. It could be how many of you do you really remember your car's license plate number. It could be obviously noticing your breath. Developing that intentionality. First of all, recognizing why am I in my head, how it is hurting me, and then developing intentionality to find extraordinary within the ordinary. That's the key.
It's this move from wandering to mindful, intentional presence. And as you were saying that, I also, my mind wandered to San Diego a little bit. So I was, but your way of telling the story brought me back into it. So speaking of how we sustain anything, be it a relationship, a habit, a attention, and so forth, I recalled from your book, The Handbook of Happiness, you kind of offer these tools and approaches to how you can use these incredibly accessible small daily steps like gratitude, intentional presence, reflection, and how you can build deeper, durable happiness. I'm curious about which of these practices have been most transformative for you personally, and from what you hear from other people as they share with you stories.
Yeah, so I'll try to share with you as I try to live my day, and it's not one practice over. So I've been on this journey for about 20 years, and so it's sort of a combination of practices. And each practice I see, they're like a candy. Candy gives you immediate joy, and then it's a combination of candy and Aleve, and Aleve sort of the joy lasts for about 6 hours. Because if I do something today and it is going to benefit me 6 months from now, I'm not going to be doing it. I want to do something today that benefits me now. So the first thing I like to do, like I woke up this morning, is I like to wake up not grumpy. I like to wake up grateful. And I do wake up grumpy at times, but I quickly shift to gratitude. And I realize that I can be grateful for nature, for a healthy body, thank God for people trusting me, for the love in the world. But most of it, I try to be grateful for people. I choose to believe that every good person in my life is opting to be, has chosen to be around me. It's not an accident. It's not passive present. So I sort of find them special. Like I find you special today. You've chosen to be here with me today, both of you, and so I start usually thinking about my wife as I wake up, and I think about something special between us and send her a gratitude. So I think about a few people. That's how I start my day. And the beauty is when you start your day like this, when you meet somebody already feeling grateful for them, they sense a different energy in you. So it sort of starts both us on a very uplifting note. And then what I like to do, sprinkling throughout the day, is to notice novelty, to find extraordinary within ordinary. And I have these practices with my kids and others. There's one practice I do which is called fond practice. Fond is find one new detail. Find a detail in the same object that that you had never noticed before. For example, a book cover. If you have a book with you right now, do you really know the book cover? Authors go to great lengths to create the design of the book cover. What does it show? Or the design of the logo. Then what I try to do is throughout the day, I've tried to nurture a practice where I try not to see people as, instinctively, as we saw Neanderthals, again, several thousand years ago, when we would look at others with suspicion or focus on their physical appearance. I recognize that. I'm sorry if I'm saying too much but the idea is right now I'm just sharing my practice. So I recognize that everybody is special and everybody has struggles. And so with that, everybody is priceless for somebody. So with that awareness, I try to silently send good wishes to people before even knowing who that person is. And I may actually sometimes imagine people, in the sense, if I was when I was in the hospital, I was sick, I thought of everybody who had used that hospital bed before me to send them a silent good wish, which sort of pulled me towards the positive, because I was sort of a healing presence rather than a sick presence. And then when I come back home, I really try to meet my family as if I haven't seen them for a month at least. So with that energy, and I have a particular sequence, like looking in at the color of their eyes and trying not to improve them. So those are some very specific intentional practices. I see them like, when you take a cup of milk, if the cup is full, you can't add more milk to it. What we're trying to do is put chocolate powder and honey in the milk and mix it, so it doesn't increase volume, but it changes the whole flavor.
It sounds like there are so many choices. We often tell people, practice what works for you, but also learn these new skills. And for you, you've brought in gratitude, intentional presence, novelty, all of these practices that you sprinkle throughout your day, and they make you feel that joy, experience that joy and happiness on day in and day out.
Absolutely. So you are sort of you're not visiting the planet of kindness. You're sort of trying to stay there. I once talked to a monk who was visiting from New Zealand, and he said he believed in the 10,000 hour rule, and he said, it takes 10,000 hours of meditation for you to really become good at it. And I said, all right, so if I meditate an hour a day, that's like over 30 years. I don't have that kind of patience. So I said, why not be in that low grade state 16 hours a day? And that will get me to the goal in about 2 to 3 years. So that is my effort, to stay intentional all day long in a low grade fashion. It so what happens is, the way your brain so your brain has that default and focus mode. When you're using a particular area of the brain starts reorganizing itself. And so when you develop this habit of intentionality and kindness, because that is one other thing, like you had mentioned gratitude, intentional presence, but compassion is probably one of the biggest pieces, to others and yourself. So brain reorganizes itself, and it's almost like, if you exercise, your lungs and heart and other muscles become stronger, so it becomes easier for you to exercise in the future. Because some people say, is this not tiresome? Don't you get like tired and bored of all of this? Absolutely not. You actually build capacity. And in the world that is today, when I think one of the big challenges is, sometimes we talk about happiness, and we talk about happiness through achievement, happiness through purpose, which is a very important way of feeling happy. What we are not recognizing it, there is tremendous happiness in gratitude and compassion. Those are untapped sources of happiness. They don't cost anything. They are truly cutting edge. And you don't have to go out and do anything. Right now, sitting in this room, if you think about something nice you could do in the future, you'll become happier and you'll become more hopeful. If you think about something nice you did in the past, you'll become happier, hopeful. You see someone else doing something, an act of kindness, that will make you happier and more hopeful. So it's very interesting that this bit of intentionality and awareness can truly change how we engage with life. We know that, for example, a truly grateful life can actually make you uh, give you the equivalent of maybe someone said about $100,000 raise or something. I mean, that's a lot of money, but a significant raise. So not that I don't want to raise, but uh, I also want to be happy despite the raise.
I love where this is going, Amit. And I think I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying and what I call this sort of long term inner work. In your book, Immerse, you offer a 52-week roadmap, a kind of spiritual, scientific sabbatical, if you will, for the soul. It covers everything from meaning, mindfulness, humility, and hope. So, I guess the question is, what kind of changes have you seen in people who embrace this kind of long form inner work? And how do you make it such that it's not overwhelming when you say it's like you know, that 10,000 hours, or how do you suggest they start?
There's a two-part question where, in what you said. So increasingly, we are actually focusing on kindness to oneself rather than starting externally. So we're focusing on more self-acceptance, self-compassion, self-forgiveness, enhancing your intrinsic self-worth, not contingent self-worth, because we're a lot, we are perfectionists, we're achievers, so we try to compare ourselves with others, and that's what social media does to us. There's an epidemic, there's a pandemic of imposterism, for example, in our culture. 80% people, which is basically everybody, struggling with low self-worth. I when I did a focus group of middle schoolers, I thought their concern is going to be this, that, and the other. It was low self-worth. They're all struggling with low self-worth. So I think step one is to build that connection with self, and you people never get tired of it. And it's not getting bubble baths and massages. It is truly authentically believing that I am worthy. It is respecting yourself, nurturing yourself. It is befriending yourself. How can you get people don't get tired of that. So oftentimes I tell, when people say, hey, you're sitting alone, are you bored? I say, no, I'm enjoying my brain. I want to enjoy my brain. And so that is the first part, and so people don't get tired of that. I've never ever seen anyone get tired of trying to build. People are tired of self-judgment. People are tired of being judged by others, but not of feeling worthy. Now, what kind of changes I have seen? I'll just give you an example, a couple of examples, and those are more extreme examples, like this patient who was very sick, and she was upset that it actually disturbed her entire financial landscape. And earlier she said, I'm sad that I had to sell my home to get my treatment. Later she said, I'm grateful I had a home to sell. Now, not many people have even that. There was a young girl who underwent kidney transplant and who was getting sepsis and lots of challenges. And once she learned some of the ideas, she would go to the hospital, and she said, now I go to the hospital not dreading my dialysis. I go to the hospital to send my compassion to people. So my whole visit to the hospital has transformed from feeling vulnerable to feeling empowered. So I think people generally move from a presence that is running away from pain to a presence that is seeking meaning, uh, seeking joy. So when someone comes to me and say, I want to quit that job, or I want to leave that job, my suggestion to them is, do not run away from something, run towards something. So don't run away from quitting that job, run towards something else that you are seeking. They both entail you taking the steps, but it's going to be a very different journey for you. So people in general start embracing life. People accept the unpleasant. People engage with what is. People find grateful for small things. I'm writing another book, and I had this picture on a father and son who were playing golf after 30 years of not talking to each other. And it was because, you know how it is that a small crack becomes a canyon, and then you are on the two sides of the canyon and there is no bridge. But then they both realized, I mean, it was very simple for the son. He's 50, his father is 80, and he said, well, I send him card once a year, so you're going to send 10 more cards to him in this life. And obviously he had a lot of other sort of inner awareness. So that was a beautiful picture of families coming together, divorces getting avoided, and couples coming together. I mean, hundreds of such stories.
Mhm. I love this. This is a great segue to, your book, It Takes You to Tango, which I cannot tell you. I think me and Dave have shared this book with so many people, with our medical learners, with friends, family members, and I just such a gem. You discuss this concept of inner loneliness and loneliness. and specifically in a way that is different from what's often discussed, because we often think about loneliness as this social isolation, but you also tackle it from different angles, and you're talking about how this loneliness stems from self-rejection, from these experiences with guilt, shame, and the tendency to undermine our self-worth, as you mentioned. There's this powerful shift. It's almost a U-turn with a Y, that when you suggest about these relationships, I'm curious, what would you identify or help people identify as signs? And I know it's a constant work, but also signs that a person is really moving towards that inner loneliness.
The signs of inner loneliness are the signs of loneliness. You start avoiding people, you lack confidence, you doubt yourself, you become cynical, you stop taking risks, you dread going to parties, you develop social anxiety, you are not good at taking compliments, you are not good at advocating for yourself, you judge yourself, you don't see yourself as your friend, um, you in your inner dialogue changes to, stupid me, idiot me, you're just not kind to yourself, and your thoughts are often guided by things you have not done right, without focusing on your constraints that may have prevented you from doing things right. You have a constant bully sitting inside your head, and that is what tells you that your connection with self is breaking. I think some of our colleagues would be very interested in the science behind it. Because I thought when you said science, I thought you meant science.
Science.
How did we arrive here?
Mm.
And why? I'm not trying to be just different. When I looked at the loneliness literature and Surgeon General's report, and all of that, and so I reviewed all the clinical trials and meta-analyses of all the different interventions, and I found that the effect size is very small. You provide people social support, you provide people resources, and we have all these different agendas of doing this, that, and the other. It has very small effect, which got me confused. Then I came across literature that the more the meeting, the lonelier we get. So it's not about the people. It's not about the number of people. It's about the quality of connection. And then I realized, then I found the literature that people who have low self-acceptance, low self-worth, low self-compassion are very lonely. Now, the most effective interventions are not providing social support. It is enhancing self-worth, self-acceptance, self-compassion, self-forgiveness, and it is psychoeducation. So what I realized was that actually it is your inability to connect with yourselves. There is obviously the important part of your inability to connect with others. I am not discounting that, but if it's like a bicycle, this is the main part, because if you and I are together and if I feel like I'm unworthy, and so anything you say to me is not going to go past my shield. But if I feel I am worthy, even if you criticize me, I'm going to say, oh, Moain is criticizing me because he thinks I am capable of better. So I basically choose to look at life the way I choose to look at life, right? Life is a big menu. You pick which items you bring on your table. So that is the science. And the other piece of this puzzle is, my focus is always on what is actionable. I don't want theory. I don't want to talk about the other side of the moon. Yes, now we are going there, but it is not actionable for us. So I want to focus on what can move us forward with the least effort. And I think that is enhancing our connection with ourselves. The day we all wake up looking at the mirror and saying, you in the mirror, you are a good human being. You are worthy of respect. You're worthy of friendship. We'll stop being lonely.
The loneliness, inner loneliness here, as you said, can be the path to social isolation, and social isolation can be a manifestation of that. but the root cause in that here is remains that self work that we have to do and self acceptance.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it starts off in childhood. And that is why my next journey is in parenting. There is the whole 3 to 1 phenomena which happens. So you hear, so Dave hears, Dave is bad. Someone tells Dave, Dave, you are bad. So third person, second person, Dave's inner dialogue becomes, I am bad. I, Dave, and bad. So the third person, second, and so we hear that as kids from friends and others. At that time, our brain is not mature enough. Now, what happens is those become our life scripts. So I carry this script. So I had my first rejection at age 10. I had a crush at age 10 and it didn't work out. I'm glad it didn't work out because I'm married to the most amazing person on the planet. But I felt terrible, and she didn't like me because she thought I was very ugly. So it took me 2 decades from there on to recover from that insult. So that becomes your inner dialogue, and 2/3 of our kids right now, and this is not, this is the statistics are, 2/3 of kids are growing with adverse childhood events. Most adults I talk to, doesn't matter who they are, how moneyed they are, etc., how successful they are. When I go back into their, I talk to them, and they are carrying wounds from the past, unhealed, injuries. And so I think it's very important for us to enhance, improve the quality of our parenting, so our kids grow with healthy self-worth. Now, healthy self-worth is not that I'm wearing tiara all the time, that I am the one center of the attraction. Healthy self-worth is humility. It is I am enough. It is I don't need any attention. It is I'm okay even if I got a C grade. It is I'm okay if I didn't get the promotion or the grant, because I am enough as a person. I respect myself. From that emerges humility, and from that emerges passion to make a difference. So you become a little more selfless. Selfless doesn't mean you're not your self abnegation. Selfless means less of self, just slightly less of self. And you can imagine, say, as is fearless, you can imagine we need more selfless people in the world right now for us to find more calm and peace.
I definitely love that, Amit. And I guess the next sort of theme here is sort of living what you teach, and you're talking about that. And across your books, I think you give a consistent message about presence, compassion, forgiveness, and purpose. And sustaining those is not always easy, right? When life throws you curveballs. So when you're working in high stake environments like healthcare or business, I guess the question is, how do you personally stay anchored to the values you teach, especially in these tough moments?
So there is the practical aspect and there is the conceptual aspect, a model. It helps really to have a clear model with which you're working. And it's like when you're making a drink, you put sugar and salt. Um, or when my wife made, let's say, a vegetable, and there was a lot of spice in it, a lot of chili in it. So what she does is she puts yogurt to neutralize it, so that it's more neutral and it's edible. So I believe similarly, I feel like if there is negativity in the world, we need enough positivity to at least bring it neutral, or keep it positive. And if there is one role I feel I have on the planet, that is to be a source of good, a force of positivity in the world, no matter what. And so I feel it, uh, when I see suffering in the world, I don't really pull myself down. I say I have failed in some way, in that I have not been able to engender enough positivity through my thoughts, through my actions, that there is suffering in the world. And I'm more focusing on suffering in my small world, but even in the larger world. So I have this insatiable force within me to stay altruistic, to stay positive, to think good, to never judge someone, never get angry or mad or envious or hatred, not have those feelings. Because I think if I put that negative energy, then I am going to take the world in a worse place where I am counted, I am held on to higher sort of values. So that is the model, conceptual model, which keeps me going. Now that model, and it is not scientific. It is just a belief that my positivity will translate into world getting better, into your kids being treated with the same love as you would want to love them by the world. So the day-to-day practice, it has been years in making. What I've realized is that the only way I can write something or share or teach something is if I'm practicing it. My employers are not people who pay me. My employers are about 1 billion kids on the planet, because I'm answerable to them for my values. And I hold my values in very high regard, to not let them falter. And so, so I'm constantly trying to practice what I write or what I share and innovate new ideas, to be doing that. So that's what drives me. What really helps me is I get to teach this. I get to write about it. I get to read about it. That's my literature review. So that's an amazing place to be, right? And almost every day I'm talking to someone who is struggling, and I'm so grateful to them for trusting me. And so they remind me that I just cannot be selfish. I cannot be greedy, and I cannot be envious, and so on. So there's a lot of purpose behind it, a lot of connection behind it, a lot of personal force behind it, that sort of guides me in person.
I'm recalling what Mary Oliver says in one of her poems. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? So there is that daily intentional thinking and reflection and saying, what kind of force do I want to do? And there is a lot of power in choosing to be that. And I like that you said that is my faith or belief system. That's I'm talking about that. So I'm actually want to bring this because when you read books, and at least for me personally, reading books or listening to people, you kind of see these maybe two more dominant um, approaches. One is people come from a place of pure science and facts, and some come from a place of philosophical belief or something, or other forms of fact. You have this rare ability to merge science and storytelling. And I personally think that is one of the most powerful and unique things about how you share your words and ideas and obviously the science. So, how do you navigate the harmony between bringing science and telling stories into what you share?
I think, thank you for that. I take that as a compliment, as it is intended. Um, I think the key is authenticity. I think we are very, very fortunate to be living in a world where we can earn our bread while staying authentic. Uh, I don't take that lightly, because there are many people who are selling tobacco to teens and all doing all kinds of things, and it's very sad to see what they have to do to bring food to the table. You wonder if they have to do that, but yet. So I think, so the way I try to navigate this is through, when I think about a person in front of me, a person who is struggling, or a group, or an audience, I sort of use my theory of mind to try to understand what are they struggling with, and what will it take for them, what is the simplest route for them to get past that struggle, to develop understanding, and then feel empowered and energized to move to the next level. And so I'm not thinking science, I'm not thinking story, I'm not thinking solution to fit to a problem. I'm thinking, what is the problem? And then intuitively sort of guiding, finding the right sort of tricks, combining them and serving them. And that's what I try to do in my individual consults too with people. And so, so I've collected over 2 decades now a bag of tricks, and they include stories and science and skills. And, of course, we journey through life, and I've sat with Himalayan masters and had the privilege of dialoguing with His Holiness, all and talk to some of the top scientists and all that. So I said this at the end of my TEDx talk, which was "Science is the systematic study of spirituality." Basically, I don't see them as separate. I think the more you focus on truth and find a good way to offer truth that is healing to the person in front of you. Stories naturally sort of sprinkle in, science sprinkles in, and you have to give them skills so they can take it forward. So that's the answer. I think authenticity combined with compassion, true compassion for the person in front of you, and going from the problem to sort of scanning your brain for what solutions there are, and sort of creating a solution and serving it up to them, and constant feedback from people. I think humility is also very important, because and that's how my kids keep me humble, because they always they're very good at negative feedback, giving you negative feedback. So I love people telling me what you told me was just totally useless. So, oh, that's good to know. Here is a lesson coming. So
I think this is especially timely with where people now, there is this struggle in telling certain truths, or believing, as well as the polarity of opinions. So those are really important skill sets to think about having a conversation with someone that you can fundamentally disagree with, but where do you find the point of civil conversation?
oh, absolutely. I think there is absolutely no point in judging someone for just one or two differences. I think we're all in this together. I've not had the privilege of uh, taking one of those, going above the Earth's atmosphere and looking at planet, and then coming out and kissing the Earth, and getting emotional all about it. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think the important piece is for us to align our forces around a common goal that is non-negotiable, that resonates with everybody. And to me, that is the well-being of children. Nobody wants to hurt kids. Everybody wants a beautiful future for our children. So that's where I align my work. And whatever will make the world a better place for them is the right thing to do. Now, if your truth will do that, let's do that. If my truth will do that, let's do that. And by the way, your truth and my truth are not very far apart. Probably the truth is somewhere in between the two of us, divided by two. So it's not about me or you. It's really about the kids eventually. That's our evolutionary responsibility to hand a better world to them.
Beautifully
Yeah,
said.
absolutely. And Amit, I love how you touched on that. And I think one of the frameworks that Moain and I like to think about is sort of each individual is a universe, but then there's also a second interconnected one of the sort of individuals, meaning like an interpersonal universe. And then there's a third sort of systems or organismal relationship. But I think one common question that always comes up is like, what practical advice would you tell a leader if they're feeling burnout? Like where do you begin to help them navigate those interdimensional spaces?
Yeah, so it depends on obviously the phase. How advanced are you in burnout? If you are early, mid, or advanced burnout. If you are in advanced burnouts, then it's like a bone that has broken. You need help, and first of all, seek help because your brain has really reorganized itself, and your lower limbic brain is just taken over, and you would need help to recover. But assuming someone is sort of languishing, and that's where I think you're going in the early to mid phases of burnout, then there is a clear sort of the equation has gotten reversed in that there is the demand resource imbalance, uh, along with lack of control and lack of clarity about meaning. Those are the three parts of the equation in general. So try to match resources with demands, and those resources, are all kinds of resources. Your physical, logistical, cognitive, emotional, and try to match the demand with those resources. Be honest about what you can really accomplish, what you can contribute. Find the right amount of control that you have. If you feel like you are controlled for everything, then you will burn out much sooner. And then purpose, which has four components to me. Purpose is building. Think about what you're building. Think about who you are becoming as a person as you are building it. Think about belonging, about your connections, about your relationships, and think about believing. What do you believe in? What is your long-term purpose? So that imbalance between the amount of demands placed on you and the control and purpose, that is the simplest model to understand how to recover from burnout. Clearly, I think probably the most important part of the equation there is disconnect between effort and purpose. You're putting too much effort but not meeting the purpose. Through all this, I think it's important to look at your own personal predisposition. Very likely, you uh, you have been you do not have healthy self-worth. Very likely your self-worth is contingent. Very likely you're comparing yourself with others or what you could have been. Very likely you are not kind to yourself. You have not accepted yourself. You have not forgiven yourself. So healing your relationship with yourself and others through this process. So that's what I would recommend. Usually when I talk to leaders, I sort of go through all this and pick the threads where they can have the most benefit for the smallest time investment. And it I mean, most people were able to move a little bit forward, but the world is really difficult these days. The world keeps getting technologically advanced, but emotionally, where everybody's carrying too much cognitive and emotional load. I don't know how people are doing it right now without having a much more resilient brain. It is very difficult, very, very difficult.
Beautiful. Yeah, and I think that I want to build on that, and sort of one more question, sort of like what we say, the one truth that changed you. You've written about attention, happiness, love, purpose, resilience, and thousands live more fully through that suffering and joy. So that I guess the question is, what one truth, maybe simple, maybe hard one, that most changed you, the way you live your life?
I think I can think of several, but if there is one that has changed me is assume positive intent. It is API. It is assume that the person in front of you, they mean well, even though they may seem annoying, they may seem different. They probably have constraints that they can never share with you. They probably know something that they can never share with you, and that assumption uh, helps you maintain a much more nurturing relationship with people who you disagree with and with yourself.
Beautiful. And I love that acronym because it's like in the digital world, API is all about interconnecting. So
That's right.
beautiful answer. Moain?
Well, Amit, we could easily spend days having conversations with you. So how about we just settle on you promising us to come back for more conversations?
That sounds great. I'll be happy to. It's lovely to talk to fellow brothers on the same journey, and um, thank you for trusting me with your time, with your listeners, and so I'll be absolutely delighted to join back.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your warmth, your deep humanity, and the work that you have done, from retaining our attention with novelty, with curiosity, to deepening connections with compassion, and assuming the best in people, and to also using yogurt to neutralize flavors as well. So that is a great tip.
Yeah,
So we appreciate you. For those who are listening in today's conversation, if it resonated with you, we invite you to explore Dr. Amit Sood's work and books. And this book is truly a gem and a gift. And it takes you to Tango, leverage the science of loneliness to master the art of connection. Until next time, inward with courage and outward with compassion.
Thank you for joining the Well-Being Manifesto podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and leave us a comment or review. To learn more about this discussion, visit thewellbeingmanifesto.com. And remember, inward with courage, outward with compassion.